It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. And I'm doing a little impromptu broadcast here. It's August 23rd at 11:36 a.m. in the morning. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to run out and I'm going to buy a car today. I'm going to try and get a car. And I'd like to do it today because we rented a car and I'm paying like $30 a day for this freaking rent a car. Just to get Vic back and forth to school. So I'm either going to do it today or tomorrow. So I'm offering a huge discount on the members section. $60, you get 13 months. If you pay $60 and you have to pay me via PayPal directly, you go to oppermanreport@gmail.com. Pay me directly, oppermanreport@gmail.com. $60, you get 13 months. Okay, so normally it's $74 for the year. You're saving $14, plus you're getting an additional month, save another $7. So huge savings there. If you go to oppermanreport@gmail.com via PayPal and pay it today, either August 23rd or August 24th, I can offer you that deal. Also, too, for a 3-month membership is normally $19.99. I'll give you 4 months. Again, directly, oppermanreport@gmail.com via PayPal. You get 4 months for $19.99. So you can't beat that. It's really good stuff. Now, I've just updated the members section with a whole bunch of new content. I was interviewed this week by Richard Hoagland. Remember Richard Hoagland from, he has his own show called Other Side of Midnight now, and he has a paid podcast subscription, and he's live on KCAA, which is another station we'll be on shortly. And a couple of different stations up in Maine and New Hampshire, all around the country. And so I go on his show, and it's kind of funny, okay? It's kind of funny. Some good content there, but that interview is up in the Opperman Report membership section. Just went up there today. Also did a show with James Arthur Yancic from Feet to the Fire. And I did a show with him on August 7th. That's up in the membership section. We talk about all the stuff surrounding the DNC and how the process server, Sean Lucas, was found dead in his bathroom. And I've done some independent work on that. You can find that in the members section. Did a show with Chuck Ocelli on August 1st. That's new in the members section. Well, I did a show with Ron Francel, The Darkest Night, 2 Sisters, a Brutal Murder, and the Loss of Innocence. A lot of good content in that interview as well. Kurt Richard Haskell. He's the eyewitness to the underwear bomber. Okay, and he was on my show for an hour. We have that up in the membership section. Gary Byrne, the Secret Service agent. Gary Byrne said that, and he's been doing the rounds. He's been on Fox News. He's been all over talking about his book, Crisis of Character, about Hillary Clinton, because he was Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's Secret Service agent. He told me, and we only had an hour with him because he had to go, but he told me that the questions I asked him were the best questions he's had in all of his interviews, because I got into him with Vince Foster and all that kind of stuff. Kathleen Willey, we talked about all that kind of stuff, and no one's been asking him about that. Brian McCracken is a new witness in the Arliss Perry case. That's in the members section. Okay, you might remember Arliss Perry. She was this girl that was murdered in a church, and it's alleged by Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, that it was a Son of Sam murder. And he even alleges that, what's his name? Bill Mensker was involved. So Brian McCracken claims he was a witness to that murder. He gives a lot of hints to who he thinks did it. And if you go to my chat room on Spreaker on Friday night or on Saturday night, you'll find all the people, the regular chatters in there. They've done their detective work, and they think they figured out who it is, and they have no problems blurting his name out. I don't want to get sued myself, but Brian McCracken has a very interesting information about that. Don Crutchfield's Confessions of a Hollywood P.I. Jeffrey Giuliano, author and actor, musicologist, This guy got some fascinating stuff. He interviewed John Lennon and Paul McCartney. He interviewed Paul McCartney's family, and they talk about how Paul McCartney was a deadbeat and tried to kick him out of their house. A very rude, arrogant guy. Great content he has there. Kevin Sullivan, The Trail of Ted Bundy. Kevin Sullivan's been a returning guest several times. Lorna Poole interviewed me, and that's she's a radio host from Ireland. Another Chuck Cocelli episode. Dan Zuplansky, Trophy Kill, The Shall We Dance Murders. I think he was the DA who did a really fascinating, and that involves the movie Shall We Dance with that girl who was in Pretty Woman. Fascinating story there. Dennis Brooks, Too Pretty to Live, The Catfishing Murders of East Tennessee. He was a district attorney. Christopher Boylan talks about 9/11. Libby Handros. Now, I just had on my show just this weekend, we had David K. Johnston, and he and I probably quoted Libby Handros' documentary, Trump, What's the Deal, about 5 or 6 times in that interview. David K. Johnston, as you know, is a Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times bestselling author. Just wrote a book called The Making of Donald Trump. And I've gotten emails from that show where people said, Ed, I formally supported Donald Trump. I know after hearing that interview, I no longer support Donald Trump. So that's really feels good to hear that. But Libby Handros did this fascinating documentary, Trump, What's the Deal? That's in the members section as well. Steph Young, who did a series of books about the Smiley Face Killers and the Pushing case in Manchester. I did an interview with her. That's in the members section. Greg Jones, I Want to Know podcast. Oh, that's an interview I did with Greg Jones. That was a very good interview. I really enjoyed that. Then we had Gods of Death, Yaron Soare, Snuff Films and Nazi Hunters. This is the guy who wrote a book about how his investigation into snuff films. Very interesting guy. John Masseria, Exclusive Urban Moving Systems Freedom of Information Act documents release. John Masseria is a documentary filmmaker. He's done a lot of great work. Got an interview with him, and that was exclusive after he uncovered some new documents about the urban moving systems. And we go through all that step by step through the show. Kathleen Derringer was the ex-girlfriend of convicted murderer Bill Menser. That's the guy who our other guest claims was at the Arliss Perry murders. So Corey Leviton, a fascinating guy. He's a local Vegas character. He's an author. He's a writer, a columnist. And just one of these creative artist types, just like Sarah Jane Woodhull. Really funny guy. I had him on a show, and that's in the members section. The Sheehan family, Area 51 and Groom Mine. These people, this family, lived within Area 51 for like 30, 40 years. They were there before Area 51 came. The Air Force came and built the base around them, and they were allowed to travel to and from their mine and their home and their through the Area 51 secret gates. They had permission to do this. So they got a lot of interesting stories to tell. Randy B. Fowler was the brother of Kevin Spacey, okay? And he comes on our show. He talks about being abused as a child. He talks about their father being a Nazi. All fascinating kind of stuff that you can get in the members section today and tomorrow only for a huge, huge discount, $60 for 1 year. That comes out like $5 a month. Nothing. It's not even a cup of coffee. You can't even get a cup of coffee these days for what you can get on the Opperman Report. And don't forget the kind of stuff I bring in here. I got coming up this weekend. I got Ted Rubenstein coming back. I have the guy, the FBI informant who mixed the explosives on the World Trade Center bombing in '93. He's coming on the show. I got Jill Stein coming on the show, guys. Okay, this is the kind of stuff you got to help me support. I got coming up this weekend. One of the guests backed out, but I got Len Kolodny coming back to talk about 40-Year War, and he talks about how these neocons started in the Nixon's secret government and have controlled our foreign policy until today. Fascinating character, Len Kolodny. His first book was Silent Coup. A couple other guys I'm interviewing this week. One guy, too, fascinating character who grew up in the John Birch Society and he was taught to hate people. So he's coming on our show, too. So this weekend we'll be editing all these shows together to put for you on Friday night. We don't know what's going to go in the member section yet or what will go on Friday night. Jacob Carter, Before History Dies, JFK and the Younger Generation. This guy's a school teacher. Talk about how he tries to teach his kids about the JFK assassination. Phil Hammond, Gitchy Girl, The Survivor's Inside Story, The Mass Murders, and Shock the Heartland. This guy grew up with this girl She was out by the lake, and her and her friends, some guys showed up and they killed all her friends, and then they gave this girl a ride home to where she lived. There was a childhood friend of his. That's a fascinating story, too, and a lot going on there that I don't think actually... E. Michael Jones, Abu Ghraib, we did a story about. Vincent Palomera, JFK, from Parkland to Bethesda. He's a guy who does a lot of research into the Secret Service. Brendy Richards, The Truth About South Africa. She's a podcaster, lives over there in South Africa, and told us all kinds of stuff about how they're doing all kinds of black magic and voodoo and witchcraft and stuff. They're selling human blood and human bones for their rituals. Christopher Brennan, The Fall of the Arab Spring, From Revolution to Destruction. Guy gives us the inside story of what really happened at Arab Spring. Let's see here. Okay, we got a bunch of chatters showing up in the chat room. Hello, all. Great discounts for you. $20. You get 4 months instead of 3. You get a free month if you do it today or tomorrow. August 23rd or August 24th. Okay. Hey, I should really call this guy out. I got news for you, pal. Donald Jeffries, You Didn't Build That. That's a book that's coming out. I don't think it's even published yet. I got a story in there, A.J. Weberman. I interviewed A.J. Weberman for 2 hours. Childhood hero of mine. He wrote the book Coup d'etat in America. He was the yippie Dylanologist. He's a JFK expert. He invented garbology, going into people's garbage and stealing their garbage to investigate them. Then he's just came right in this interview. He came off his discovery that Trump was in the KKK, Fred Trump, the father, and also too, he had just written a book and testified in the Portuguese Parliament about decoding Oswald's address book. Oswald's address book was written in code, and A.J. Weberman decoded that. Fascinating character. Jeffrey Felix, Guarding the Juice. This is O.J. Simpson's prison guard. He gives us the inside information of what O.J. tells people what really happened the night that Ron and Nicole died. Dr. Elliot Shin, the Hope Clinic, free medical clinic here in Las Vegas. We have Tom Dunn, investigator of the occult. Sarah Jane Woodall, where she visited Barker Ranch, the Manson family secret hideout. Oh, great show. Robert Merritt, confidential informant in Watergate. This guy had a lot of great information in Watergate. And everybody knows him, too. This guy, fascinating character. He ran a homosexual kind of brothel kind of operation over there. Millie Morris McGee and Wesley Swearingen. J. Edgar Hoover, Passing for White. This is a story about how J. Edgar Hoover was actually African-American. And there's some pictures you have on there where he absolutely looks African-American, too, as well. Oh, Jeffrey H. Caulfield, Dr. Caulfield. Book about General Walker and the murder of President Kennedy, the extensive new evidence of radical right-wing conspiracy. Great book, great interview. Jeffrey Caulfield's a great guy. He's done 30 years worth of research, and I really admire all his work. Former Hells Angels president George Christie talked to us about Altamont Stone's concert. A couple of times we've had Jackie Hollander on talking about the Reverend Al Sharpton and James Brown. She was a victim of rape of James Brown. Melvin Dumar, remember him? He was in Howard Hughes' Will. I have him on our show. Then we had a little broadcast from A.J. Weberman where he exposed Fred Trump of being in the KKK. Another repeat with George Christie, where he tells about his life in the Hells Angels. We had Leslie James Pickering talking about the Mad Bomber of Melville. Margaret Randall Che, On My Mind, is a woman who lived in Cuba for many years. She was a friend of the Che Guevara family. Daniel Burton Rose, Creating a Movement with Teeth, a documentary history of the George Jackson Brigade. Irvin Mitnick, Justice Denied, the untold story of Nancy Argentino's death in Jimmy Superfly Snuka's motel room. This guy was a sports writer, and he does a lot of work on wrestling, and he worked on and investigated the Jimmy Superfly Snuka murder of his girlfriend. T.H. Johnson, The People versus O.J. This is all the stuff that's already in the member section, plus new stuff gets added every month. Anthony Choice Diaz, we had a conversation about the state of the movement. Melinda Kula, Alternate Theory of Who Killed John Benet Ramsey. Me and Pierce Redmond had a conversation about Jeffrey Epstein. Then we have Jeffrey Gilson, Maggie's Hammer. That's a fascinating story, too, about this guy in the UK and involving all kinds of skullduggery and intrigue and spies and double agents missing money. Trent Reynolds talked about the West Memphis Three. Did a show about Ted Gunderson with David Schroeder and Doug Millar talking about Ted Gunderson, and a lot of funny stories in there. Timothy Holmes at the murder of Haley Cummings. That's in our member section. Hank Harrison discussed Soaked in Bleach, and in there he discussed about how Courtney Love was involved in all kinds of prostitution and human trafficking. Dr. Dale Griffiths of the West Memphis 3, he testified as an expert witness at the West Memphis 3 trial. He's in our member section. Also, too, this was his last interview that he has ever done. And he said, Tim Tate, who is part of Interesting Films, and he directed and produced the documentary Conspiracy of Silence about the Franklin cover-up that was silenced. Boxing referee legend Richard Steele, he's on our show. Then we had Doug Valentine talking about the Phoenix program in the CIA. Did a show about Adnan Khashoggi, the party dungeon of Adnan Khashoggi. Kathy Scott, the murder of Robert Durst. That's a fascinating story. We had on Christine Joanna Hart talk about UK phone hacking scandal that she was part of that got Rupert Murdoch had to resign. All kinds of shows. We did a show about Paul is being dead. I had on Jimmy Savile's great niece who was molested by Jimmy Savile right in front of her family. Okay, Kelly Bonansky wrote a book called The Woman Condemned, but in that interview we discussed about how she was a pen pal with Richard Ramirez. He used to call her up from prison, and that her friend murdered this woman in his parents' garage with his parents sitting in the next room. He was living in this garage. He had no running water, so he had to be walking when he was murdering this woman and cutting her up, walking from there to the bathroom to wash his hands and stuff, back and forth through this living room right in front of his parents' eyes. Then ate part of her. He barbecued her and ate her and invited friends over to eat some too. We had a Nathan Lewinsky to talk about I Don't Like Mondays elementary school shooting. Dennis Hoff, who is the pimp at the Bunny Ranch, his book, The Art of the Pimp, again, is another interview where he says, no one's asked me these questions before. This is all great stuff. Confessions of a D.C. Madam with Henry Vinson. Then we had a guy, Daniel E. Moore, who was a victim of the Temple of Set murder plot. And then we have Fabian Poulin talking about the Oak Island buried treasure. That's a lot of content. There's also a document section and a video section in the members section at OppermanReport.com. Now, this deal I'm offering you today, $60, you get 13 months. That's only available today, August 23rd or August 24th. So please, because I need that PayPal cash today because I'm trying to go out and get a decent car that'll get us back and forth to California. We'll be able to do better reports for you, okay, if we can get around a little bit better. Okay, also 3 months, and you get 4 months. Normally it's $19.99. You get 3 months. I'm going to give you an extra month if you send me $20. Is that going to kill you? $20 for this great content you get here? Plus you get to go on here and listen to all these shows for 3 months. Plus the new stuff that I'm going to be adding this week and next week and the week after for the next 3 months. You're going to get 3 months of brand new content plus all this old content. Plus we have documents in there. I have 14 motions from the Trump University lawsuit. You can't find that anywhere online. Look, I got that from Steve Brill from Court TV sent me that. You can't get that from anywhere online for free. I have the Trump lawsuit where he's being sued by the 2 girls that he raped when they were 13 years old. That's up there, plus the affidavits. You can hardly find the affidavits anywhere, but I got them. Okay. We have the video of the search warrant execution at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. We have the phone records from the confessions of a D.C. madam, the Palfrey, from her lawyer, filed a motion, and he included all the business numbers on the D.C. madam's cell phone bill. None of the personal numbers, home numbers or personal numbers, but all the businesses and the companies and the corporations, aerospace companies, the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C., lawyers' offices, all kinds of great stuff in there. If you want to go through them one by one and find out who's who. Okay, guys. So that's my plea to you today. I'm really looking for some new members this afternoon, which is why I'm doing this impromptu show, hoping that I'll get some quick cash coming today that we can run out and get a car. Now, if you want to do this, if you want to take advantage of this great discount, OppermanReport@gmail.com via PayPal. $60, you get a year, you get 13 months. Okay, so a baker's dozen. $20, you get 4 months. Okay, normally that would be 3 months, but you get a nice deal on that too. Okay, guys, so that's about it. Coming up Saturday, we have Altamont, and then we're revisiting Danny Castellero and all that stuff with Ted Rubenstein, plus other things. We got into all different kinds of conversations during the week. And then Friday night, I got a bunch of big stuff coming up this week. The guy with the John Birch Society. One of my guests backed out, but then we have Len Kolodny coming, and then we have another guy who's a former cop who's against police brutality now. Okay, so that'll be it for today. Please check us out and help us out with that member section. I want to welcome a newest sponsor, SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company. They're located in India, so you know you're going to get save a lot of money and get top quality service. They offer all sorts of business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshoring research network, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. Now, you can get a hold of Subash Technosis by email at info@subashtechnosis.com. Their website is www.subashtechnosis.com, and their Skype is ANUSHASUBASH.